Hello, my name is Morgan Wood, and I am a candidate for the North Carolina Teaching Fellow.
Describe yourself in 3 words and why you picked those.
I would describe myself as a hard worker, reliable, and empathetic. As a hard worker, I'm highly dedicated and driven, and I can apply that to my students' learning. As a future teacher, I will dedicate my time to understanding how my students learn best and find activities and resources that best fit their individual learning styles. I always put an effort to go above and beyond in everything I do, and I will apply that to my future classroom. Being someone who is reliable is also super important to me. I strive to be someone my students can trust and someone they can depend on when needed. I would also describe myself as empathetic because I tend to put myself in others' shoes, which helps me to better understand their perspective and emotion. I believe that this is an important characteristic as a teacher to be able to understand that students need to be supported in different ways and learn differently.
How do you keep a positive attitude amid challenging circumstances?
To stay positive, I like to focus on the things that I can control. Try to break down the problem into smaller parts and celebrate the small wins along the way. I try to remind myself of the progress that I've made and that the obstacles in front of me are just temporary and will be overcome.
What can and should a teacher do to foster understanding of people who are from different backgrounds and mindsets?
I think it's so important to build a positive and strong relationships with your students to better understand them as a person. It's also important to build a respectful and inclusive classroom environment where everyone feels safe to be themselves. Group activities are a great way for students to share their perspective, which builds empathy and understanding all around your classroom.
What do you think it means to be a professional as a teacher in the classroom?
To me, being a professional as a teacher in a classroom means a commitment to fostering a positive and effective learning environment. When you're a teacher in a classroom, you're serving as a role model for your students, and it's important to build a positive and respectful relationship with not only your students, but parents and colleagues as well.
Think of your favorite teacher you have had during your time as a student. What characteristics did they display that made them your favorite, and how will you try to emulate them in your classroom?
My favorite teacher I've had as a student over the years was my 4th grade teacher, Miss Hannah Peacock. I look up to her so much for so many reasons. She was the kindest teacher I've ever met, and you could tell right away how much she truly cared for her students. She somehow made every student her top priority and made such an effort to support their learning. In my future classroom, kindness will be such an important factor. I will make sure that every one of my students knows how important they are to me, as Ms. Peacock did for me. Also in my future classroom, I want my students to feel supported. I want to set expectations and work through and guide my students to reach their full potential. I also want my classroom to be a fun environment like I remember Ms. Peacock's class being. I felt so safe and so taken care of, and I want my students to feel the same.
What excites you most about becoming a teacher?
I am so excited to be a teacher. What I'm most excited for is supporting my students' learning. When I graduated from high school, I wrote on my cap a phrase that I believe sums me up not only as a person, but as a future teacher. The phrase was, "Be somebody who makes everybody feel like somebody." You never know what a student's going through, so I will dedicate my time to supporting my students in any way needed and supporting them to excel not only as a student, but as a person.
What makes you a fantastic candidate?
I am prepared to put my all into my students' learning. I believe I represent the commitment that is needed to be an effective teacher. The love I have for teaching is like no other, and I believe that North Carolina needs more teachers like that. I would be so honored to receive this teaching fellow. Thank you for your time and consideration.